Hello and welcome to Political Glamour. This is the first of 3 videos where we will be discussing Rules for Radicals by Sol Alinsky. Now, I'm going to start with a risky assumption. I'm going to assume that you've seen the shit happening in the news or splattered over social media, or let's be fair, just looked out your window. You've seen the police murdering unarmed ethnic minorities. You've seen the UK government, the US government as well, putting the economy before its own citizens, and you've seen fascists in London protesting. I could go on, but that would take more than 3 videos, sadly. Having seen all that, you think to yourself, this can't be allowed to happen. I need to do something to change that. So you share an anti-racist post on Facebook or Twitter, and you feel good about yourself thinking, wow, I've really helped make a difference. And yes, that is important, but is it enough? Well, sadly, no, it isn't. I wish it was, then I wouldn't have to make this video. So, okay, fine, you think. I want to do more, but where do I start? I know that feeling, and it's frustrating. But you have taken the all-important first step by clicking on this video. How? Good question. Because I am going to give you the tools needed to get started on making a difference with a little help from Rules for Radicals and Sol Alinsky. And you want to know what the best thing is? It's free. First, let me tell you what this video is not. It's not going to be me laying out a step-by-step plan with the end goal being to end fascism or to end discrimination. I wish I could, but these problems go back a long way and are very deep in society. So unfortunately, I can't make that video. I wish I could, but I can't. More importantly, this video will point you in the right direction and help you get on the path to start to fix our broken system. I know it may sound like some sort of unobtainable idea, but this video will help you and others like you begin working on fixing the problems we all face in the modern world. It will give you the foundation to organise, be productive, and tactics so you can get stuff done. Now, I don't know all of your circumstances, so I can't make an individual plan. But what I can do is better, I think, and that is give you the tools so you can make your own plans to start affecting change, whether it be in your local community or a national level. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this is part 1 of a 3-part series where we'll be discussing Rules for Radicals. I split the series into 3 videos simply to make it easier for you to digest, and you can flick between them whether you want stuff more on tactics or want stuff more on organising. This first video will cover skills you need to be an organiser and get people involved in your movement, whether that be an anti-fascist movement or an LGBTQ+ movement. One key thing to remember throughout this is that change only comes from power, and power comes from organising. And unless you have power, those in charge aren't going to listen to you. That's the sad truth of it. The second video in this series is going to be based on tactics, what to do once you've got your organisation and members. Again, if you're already part of an organisation, the tactics thing might be more relevant to you. However, I do recommend watching all the videos because there's always room to grow. Then, in the final video, I will be making the case for Rules for Radicals and the rules of means and ends, exploring why I believe a book published in the early 70s is still relevant today. You could argue that should probably be the first video I made, but I want to hurry up and get you the skills you need to get out there and start making a change. With that said, let's begin the first video. Chapter 1. What is Rules for Radicals? Rules for Radical is a book written by community activist Sol Alinsky and released in 1971. It is an impassioned counsel to young radicals on how to effect constructive social change. It influenced the organising of a young Barack Obama in Chicago and was even the subject of Hillary Rodham Clinton's senior thesis. I know, but I would be wrong to leave that out. Alinsky has been very successful in the application of his Rules for Radicals, from his fight with Kodak to his formation of the Backyards organisation, which we will discuss in more depth in the final episode. Just quickly, why Rule for Radicals? Well, it contains many methods and guidance that is still useful today. One of them, today's topic, is organising, which, thanks to the likes of the internet and social media, has never been easier. With that being said, what is a radical? Well, Alinsky gives a good answer in his first book, where he states, "The radical believes that all people should have a high standard of food, housing and health. The radical places human rights far above property rights. He is for universal, free public education and recognises this as a fundamental to the democratic way of life. The radical believes in complete equality of opportunity for all peoples, regardless of race, colour or creed. He insists on full employment for economic security, but is just as insistent that man's work should not only provide economic security, but also be as such to satisfy the creative desires within all men." That is a core belief of mine, and I'm sure you too. So, with that being said, let's get organised.
Chapter 2. Get organised.
How do you get organised? Well, first, what are you getting organised for? Maybe there is something in your community you want to change, or maybe it's something more national. It doesn't matter. What does matter is that to do that, you're going to need people. Maybe you already have a few. That's a great start. But regardless of how many you've already got, you're probably going to need more. The only way to challenge those in power is with a coalition of people. Why? I think Saul Alinsky said it best when he said, "There are those who have money and there are those who have people. We have nothing but people, so that's what we use." How to start? It can be as simple as getting a few friends together, building a WhatsApp group or a Facebook group, talking with people and getting them together, maybe having a local meetup in your community hall once the pandemic is over, obviously. Unless in this case you're watching this when it is over, then disregard. Now, one thing you'll need to begin with is an image. For example, this YouTube channel's image is political glamour. Alinsky had back of the yards. You need an image people can get behind. Think of it like branding. You're going to need that to communicate with people. Communication is key, and I'll be coming back to that again and again throughout this video. Communication is key. So start having conversations with people to bring them on board. At this stage, you don't necessarily need a definitive aim, just a plan like, I want to combat rising fascism, or I want self-determination for trans people. It doesn't need to be exact at this point, but you need a rough idea of what you're working towards. At this stage, all that matters is building your coalition. This is known as the process of power. And your first aim is to increase your membership, because you can't make any changes without power. And the only way you're going to get power is if you start organising and you start getting people on board. You've got to get people hyped up and excited to join. You've got to build a strong image as well. Look at something like Black Lives Matter. Really strong image, really good example. Now, to begin with, you may find it hard to recruit people. Small organisations often do. It is difficult to begin with. Who wants to join with just one or two other people? But as you begin to grow, you'll find it gets a lot easier because people are more inclined to join when it's a bigger organisation. Not only that, but the more people who are involved, the more people who can go out and recruit and have conversations with people. You have to remember that. It is going to be hard to begin with, I'm not going to lie, but I want to be honest with you so you don't get discouraged. Power and organisation go hand in hand. After all, is a political party not just an organisation of people? Is a union not just an organisation of people? Hell, even a church is nothing more than an organisation of people. And think of all the power that all of those things have, which may include a bit of tit for tat, a bit of you do this for me and I'll do that for you. You know, quid pro quo, to use a phrase. So this may mean you may have to work with people you don't fully agree with. But remember, that's not what's important. What's important is getting change. So you may have to put some of your differences aside. I understand it might not be ideal, but it is strength in numbers that is important. Don't let people use divide and conquer against you. Now, obviously, the caveat to this rule is don't work with Nazis, white supremacists, racists, never. Ever, ever, ever. Don't build coalitions with them. I'm sure that's pretty self-evident, but having a coalition, it has its limits. As you try and build your coalition and get people together, you will find people try to dissuade you from doing it. All societies discourage and penalise ideas and writing that threaten the rules of status quo. Don't believe me? Go online now and look at social media. You'll see loads of people on the internet saying, no, we shouldn't change, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. If you dare to question authority, you will quickly face a backlash. You'll see this occur time and time again. You need to know this because you need to be ready for it. One of the key things I want you to remember throughout this is that you need to look after yourself and take stock of your own mental health. That's why below in the comments I provided links to various mental health websites, because you need to put yourself first and make sure that you're okay before you continue on. As I said, as you begin to build, you're going to face a lot of friction, because after all, change means movement and movement means friction. It's inevitable, it's going to happen. That's why it's so important to also look after your mental health. Some people, once they've joined, may be rather hesitant. Some may just want to jump straight in and be really proactive. They might want to get going fast, start making posters, recruiting to rallies, all sorts. And if you can get those people, that's great. Some people are going to be a bit more weary. They're going to be like, well, I want to help, but I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. Start them off gently. Don't push anyone that's not ready for it. Slowly ease them in. You've got to make sure people feel comfortable or they'll just leave straight away. Then, once these hesitant people are settled in, you begin to build on it, just putting little things there to get them to do more and push them further and get more enjoined and get more active. Slowly, mind you, but that's what you do. You start them off gently and you build them in. You've got to understand that not everyone is going to be as committed as you are. Now, sometimes it might happen that they never want to get 100% involved and go all in. They just want to stay at that hesitant level, just helping a little bit, and that's fine. Don't push them. If that's the level they want to do, let them go at that level, let them stay at that level, and let them help, because this is about building a coalition. Any and all help is welcome, whatever level they want to help at. Obviously, it's more ideal if you get people who want to get more involved, but as I said, it's not always going to be that way. So as you start to build your coalition, you get people in, you can start looking at what you want to do first, something you want to change. What's your first protocol going to be? Don't aim, as I said, don't aim for the stars. Don't straight away go, right, that's it, we're going to end fascism, we're going to end racism, that's our goal, we're going to do it. Don't make that your first goal. You need to win small victories to begin with and build on it from there, because that is what keeps people motivated and engaged. Give them hope. When you're a small group, go out and just do something small, get a small victory, because people will then begin to think, wow, if we can do this when we're just a small group, imagine what we can do when we're a big group. So be careful when you're picking your first fights as your group, as defeats early on can lead to demoralisation and bringing the whole organisation and cause crashing down. So, for example, if your aim in this is to end rough sleeping, that's your main aim, shall we say. You want to end rough sleeping. It's going to be a long and hard process. So your first aim shouldn't be, we're going to end rough sleeping and that's all we're going to do. We're going to end it right now. We're going to go out and that's going to be a victory. No, you're just going to run out of steam. You need to set small goals to begin with. So for example, if that was your aim, your first goal could be something as simple as putting pressure on the council to put more money into reducing homelessness. Is it going to fix the problem? No. Will it make a difference? Yes. And that is obtainable to begin with. So then you can have that victory and then you build on it from there until you reach your end goal. Yes, I know it's a slow process, but we have to see the world as it is, and that is the sad truth of it. Now, a good example of winning a small victory I find is in the book. Alinsky explains how in one of the areas he helped, they had a high infant mortality rate. And to combat this, they needed to ask the Infant Welfare Society to basically come and give them the help they need to bring down the infant mortality rate. Now, he rang them up and they said, yes, we're more than happy to come back. All you have to do is ask. So he was like, that's great. But he didn't ask them then. What he decided to do was get his group together, his organisation together, and march on the Infant Welfare Society and demand that they come back and help. He knew he was going to win. He had a guaranteed victory, but he got people hyped up to march in there, start banging on desks going, we demand this, we demand it. Let us have this. And of course, because they were already going to agree, they said yes. Everyone was excited. Everyone was happy. They'd got a small victory. Their morale had increased and they were ready to build on it from there. Underhanded? Perhaps. But people need victories to keep themselves going. Righteousness alone will not sustain people. To get people involved, there may be a few other, not necessarily underhanded, but something you might not necessarily do or you shouldn't really be doing in your private life, is more creating a way to play on people's guilt, to have them act on their belief of not doing enough, to push them forwards. Saying, well, there's bad things happening, you've not done anything, maybe you should get involved, start making things better, don't you feel bad that you've not done that, push them forwards. You have to find a way to play on people's guilt of not acting before. Again, this may seem kind of underhanded and I wouldn't recommend using it in your own private life, but for starting an organisation and getting social change, it's kind of what you need to do to get people on board. It's what you need to do to build coalitions, and it's what you need to do to make change. That is the sad truth of it. As I've said, and I will say again, we have to see the world for what it is, not what we'd like it to be. So you have to find people's rationalizations for not doing the thing that they wanted to do and take them apart and break through so you can be direct and honest with them and get them involved. Anger and passion alone won't sustain people forever. As Barack Obama said about Saul Alinsky, the key to creating successful organizations was making sure people's self-interest were met. That's why at the beginning of the video, I mentioned about you going on social media and sharing a post. You think, oh, I feel better. Then I made you feel guilty by saying, no, that's not enough. You think, oh, yeah, maybe I do need to do more. You see, that's using the tactic there. Playing on your guilt of not doing more, then I push you saying, well, we do need to do more. And lucky for you, I have a way for you to do it. Your self-interest is to help yourself feel better while making a change. Win-win? I'll let you decide. The job is getting people to act and conflict with the current status quo. That is your key aim while organising, because you don't like the status quo, you need to change it. So people are going to dub you an agitator. And that's true, you are an agitator, because as I said before, you're going to cause conflict and that is going to cause friction. And it's only through that we can begin to affect change.
Chapter 3. Skills that pay the bills.
Now you know the basics of organising, but what about yourself? What skills do you need to be an organiser? Well, I'm going to tell you. What follows is not necessarily a tick list, more of a guide to what skills will help you being a good organiser. So here we are, in no particular order. First, and this is kind of an obvious one, I admit, experience. Having experience in organising is obviously going to help you, but you need to keep in mind that there are different forms of organising and different types of experience. For example, there's a difference between, say, labour organising in unions and community organising. For example, labour organising is usually based around a tangible idea with a goal. That could be better pay, more sick pay, whatever. And as such, you can pretty much work for and get concrete results in this. However, community organising can be more ethereal and changing. It may be, for example, to improve the tidiness of your local community. Stop people littering, for example. That's not as simple as going into the boss's office and getting them to sign on the dotted line. That is something that requires constant work. And in some cases, like ending littering, it never really ends. You can stop littering for a time, but it's not done and dusted forever. You need to keep working on it and changing it. So it's key to have those things in mind, the difference between the two, and adapt accordingly. Communication. This is a vital one. It's a two-way street. People understand things only in terms of their own experiences. For example, sharing a meme between your friends might help get a point across, but send that same meme to your gran trying to explain something, she's likely just to be more confused. That is why it's important to remember to communicate with people through their experiences and understandings. Curiosity. You need to ask questions and break through the pattern. How many times have you asked, why is something done like that? Only for people to say, oh, well, it's always been done that way. As an organiser, you need to reject that and really dig down to the issue. It's only by unearthing the real nebulous of the issue can you begin to fix it. Next, irreverence. Rejecting dogma. Not just accepting things as they are because that's the way they've always been. You need to push for an open search of ideas to your problems. This really goes hand in hand with curiosity, but you've got to be adaptive to change and putting aside differences to join together to fight the bigger enemy. Imagination. You've got to be able to come up with ideas, plans, things that can change quickly on the hoof. You might be able to protest. Something happens, you need to change what you're doing. That's why you need imagination to make sure that you can adapt to changes as they happen. Next, and this is an important one as well, personally for me I feel, is to have a sense of humour, because you're going to have to keep your morale up. Plus, if people have crazy ideas, you're kind of going to need a sense of humour to hear them. People can't be sustained on anger alone. People need to be enjoying what they're doing and getting rewards from it. Because let's be fair, most of the time you kind of have to laugh at what's happening, because if you don't, you just cry. This one, again, kind of an obvious one, but you need to be organised. Clue there, kind of in the name of being an organiser. You've got to be someone who can keep to deadlines, have things in order. No point in working on a plan and then not being organised enough to get everyone together. Kind of pointless, isn't it? Attention to detail. You've got to know what is happening around you and act on it. Attention to detail is key, especially if you're going into negotiations or something. You've got to know the minutiae detail to make sure that you're not outflanked or tricked. Knowing the details is important. You've got to be able to see things from both sides. You've got to know what the people you're working against, what they think and what they feel. As, by doing that, you're better able to combat them. Now, I want to make clear, this doesn't mean agreeing with your opponent or there's good people on both sides. Not at all. You need to be able to get into their mindset and see things from their point of view. As then when you start to understand things from their point of view, well, then you can begin to work against that. It's a key thing to remember. You need to see it from their point of view so you can use it against them, not agree with their point of view. Ego. You've got to have an ego. Otherwise, how are you going to inspire people? I know it sounds kind of crude, but it's true. Unless you think highly of yourself, you're not really going to last long when shit starts getting thrown at you, are you? That's why you need a bit of an ego. You need to be resilient. Again, mental health is a key part of this as well, and I implore you to check the links below. That is so important for all of this, to look after yourself and obviously the people you're working with. Lastly, we've talked about this before, you need an image. Now, lots of people get bogged down with optics, myself included, and I'm going to keep this a little bit brief. I do want to talk more about optics in the future, but as for now, I just want to say your image is important. Because to begin with, you'll be nobody. I'm nobody. You just take it on faith that I'm a good person and I share your beliefs and interests and want to work with you. You don't know if that's true. I've told you it's true, but who am I to you? I'm no one. That's why image is so important. For example, when your enemies start attacking you, people are going to go, well, they must have some good ideas because they're getting attacked by the people we don't like. So what they're saying must be true about them if they're hating on them for that. So that's the list. Again, that's not an exhaustive list. There are plenty more you can add to it, but that's the bare bones of the list. Again, if you don't meet all of these, I don't want to discourage you from being an organiser or getting involved. As I said, that isn't a tick list, more a blueprint. So if you tick one or if you tick all of them, I don't care. You can work on the others, but you just need to get out there and start doing.
Chapter 4. Communication.
I know I said that wasn't a tick list, but I kind of pulled a sneaky on you. One of them actually is essential. That one is communication. Communication is the fundamental of any organisation. How can you work together if you can't understand each other? Alinsky gives a great example of shared experiences and using that to communicate with each other in his book.
In one community there was a Greek Orthodox priest who will be called here the Archimandrite Anastopoulos. Every Saturday night, faithfully followed by 6 of his church members, he would tour the local taverns. After some hours of imbibing, he would suddenly stiffen and become so drunk that he was paralysed. At this point, his faithful 6, like pallbearers, would carry him through the streets back to the safety of his church. Over the years, it became part of the community's experience, in fact, a living legend. In talking to anyone in that neighbourhood, you could not communicate the fact that something was out of place, not with it, except to say it was out like the Archimandrite. The response would be laughter, nodding of heads at, yeah, we know what you mean, but also an intimacy of sharing a common experience.
People communicate based on their experiences. As someone who suffers from depression, this is a key thing that you learn during therapy. That you begin to base things on past experiences, which informs your worldview and the way you see things. As such, it is important to understand other people's views and communicate with them through that. Just as you need to understand your opponent's experiences so you can go outside of that. Language is important. So speak to people in their own. Use their idioms, their values, their legends, all of that. Don't just rely on stock phrases. It will turn people off. For example, just saying the word fascist turns people off. Yes, I know. I've used that several times throughout this video and used it at the beginning. However, the video that I'm aiming these people at are going to understand what I mean by fascism and have an idea in their head that they don't like it and that it exists and it's a problem and it needs to be dealt with. However, if I went out in my community and just talked with any random stranger and went, oh, fascism's bad, chances are I'd be like, that's Nazi Germany, that's all gone and done with, what are you talking about? And just ignore me and not listen to what I have to say. So I'm assuming that your understanding of fascism will be different from other people's understanding of fascism. That's why I use the word fascist, as I felt it helped me communicate with you better than using any flowery language and going around the bushes just to get to the point I wanted to make. So if I was aiming this video at a different group who weren't necessarily wanting to sort an organisation of anti-fascism, then I would use more appropriate language for that.
Conclusion.
We've only scratched the surface in this video, and there's still 2 more videos to come. So, in closing, let's sum up the key points. No changes can come about without organisation. Be that community organisation, unions, whatever. The key thing to remember is communication and grow your numbers. I cannot stress those 2 things enough. They are so important at the beginning stages. Communication and growing your membership. In my next video, I will be discussing tactics and the titular rules for radicals. Because it's all well and good to organise, but what do you do when you are organised? How do you then begin to get change? That's what my next video will be discussing, the tactics you will use. So please, won't you join me for that? And hopefully, when I finally finish that video, I'll be smart enough to put a link here somewhere which you can then click on and go straight to that video. Hopefully it won't be too long, but with the world the way that it is and everything going on, it's hard to say. In the meantime, like, comment and subscribe to help spread the message, because as I have said again and again, growing numbers is important and I need your help to grow those numbers so we can begin to make a change. Also, in the meantime, you can check out my website and the links will be below, where I will have resources and various posts that may be of use to you. But again, the key thing is help grow the channel. Subscribe, like, share, go to Facebook, go to our website, politicalglam.co.uk. Really appreciate it, really helps. And come back next time where we'll be discussing tactics you can use to help start getting the positive change you need.